Ekal runs 80,000 schools in villages and hamlets across India. Today, we will meet the newly elected president, Subra Dravida. A little bit about Subra. Subra is currently VP of Technology in Qualcomm, where he works on 3G, 4G, 5G modems, and now working on 6G. He has 60 patents in the areas of high-speed networking and cellular communication. And it's very gratifying to see his designs ending up in smartphones that are all over the world, especially in rural areas in India. Subra is a graduate of electrical engineering from IIT Madras, has a doctorate in electrical engineering from RPI in New York. And so Subra, Ekal has educated 10 million people in geographies that are extremely difficult to reach, let alone establish a school in. How do you see 36,000 integrated villages thriving in such conditions? And tell us a little bit about the successful pilots that you have already done that give you the courage to go about such a daunting task.
Repeatability and scalability is key. We actually take that very much to heart, and we agree. So we started off with pilots. They have been in progress for quite some time, actually, already. So there's one example I can give. We had an integrated village development project has been in progress 2017 to 22. So that actually kind of 5-year snapshot has given us a very good view of what we can do, lessons learned, mistakes made, how we can improve things and all that. But overall, the progress has been magnificent. We do what we call a baseline survey before we start the project to just see what is that area like, what is the literacy there, what kinds of health problems are there, what is the kind of economic, background there, what is the average income, and so on. So we do all that stuff, before we start the project, and then periodically throughout the course of the project to see, are we doing the right things? Do we do some course correction, all that stuff? So that particular project was very insightful. It actually showed us that, literacy went up it was 40% or so, it went up about 20%. So it was already starting at some base case. So it went from 40 to 60%. Whereas digital literacy was much more dramatic. They had absolutely no exposure to any kind of, digital platform, tablet, laptop, whatever you want to call it, even smartphones, We have seen that dramatically rise with the help of our programs. Now they're basically saying almost 50%. So it is a 50% increase from almost 0% to 50%. There has been quite a significant increase in overall economic, the average income. You saw that, right? The tailoring trainees, the girls learn, they're anywhere from 14 to 20 years of age. And they come in, they learn, and then they actually are making anywhere from 17 to 13,000 rupees per month. That's a dramatic change for them. The respect in community has gone up for these women. And they go back and they start their own satellite training centers. They encourage other women to do the same, which is actually a huge multiplying factor. You see that, right? In education, in training, everything, there's a multiplication factor. So what I will say is that we have already started pilots. We have learned from them. We have about 20 IVDs already in progress, many more in planning. Yes, it's a daunting task, but we are, I think, doing a good job thanks to our donors, our volunteers, and eventually, of course, our villagers as well.
What do you think are Ekal's most valuable assets when it comes to developing integrated villages?
Yes. First of all, I want to, recognize and acknowledge, your help. We have collaborated extremely well with you, Vandana ji and Jupiter, all our calls, fundraising strategies, marketing, and in the future, corporate grants, and so on. So I really, really appreciate it. Thanks very much for what you've done with us. I see you're doing tremendous work with others as well. So in terms of, in terms of our assets, I will say 3 big asset classes that we have. One is, of course, the donor base that we have. It's very passionate. I have a donor who is not very far from my home, who is so interested. He shows up almost every week. He comes and says, I want to talk to, these kids who are going to these computer training labs. And then he will say, my wife wants to talk to these women who are in the training, tailoring centers and all that. So the donor base is very interested. They are not interested just in giving the money. They are actually interested in following up. That is a big driving force for us, right? I mean, people can just throw the money off, and then they just disappear and so on. but actually they visit these places. That's a very highly motivating force for the villagers themselves when they see these people. So I would say the huge asset, of course, is the donor base that we have. Very, very fortunate to have them. A second huge asset is our volunteers. The video said we have 400,000 volunteers. Yesterday I was speaking with a volunteer who is based in Hyderabad, but spends an enormous amount of time, uh, of his own money, and he's not paid or anything. He's a volunteer. He travels, crisscrosses 3 or 4 states, visits each of these places, sees how they're doing, gives them feedback, how to improve, what problems they have. So we are very fortunate to have a 400,000 volunteer base that's very dedicated. That's the second big asset that we have. And finally, as I've said, the villages themselves. See, you must have seen that there's a India is going to surpass China in population sometime this year. We have a huge demographic dividend, right? We'll probably have the largest number of working class people in short order. But World Bank has said that will turn into a true dividend if and only if you invest in the following: education, health, skills development, and R&D. We really can't do much about R&D, but we are focusing on the first 3 things at the very bottom base of the pyramid. That's where I think a lot of improvements can be made.
Thank you so much for your participation in this. I'm sure we are going to be going a long way with integrated villages, and 36,000 villages not enough. We need to cover all of them.
Oh yes,
All
we
the
will.
more power
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you for your encouragement. But thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. It has been wonderful.